the public comment will go as follows. When your name is called, you will go to the middle of the council chambers. There's a podium. There's a device on that podium. When the light turns green, it will be your time to speak. When the light turns yellow, you will have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. When the light turns red, we're asking you to please adhere to our guidelines and conclude your remarks.
Craig Sokolow.
I'm an attorney who works in the court system. I represent over 250 families. I believe that we should pass Resolution 190346 and have a committee chaired by Councilman Oh and Cindy Bass.
The DHS came in and they stole my intended adoptive son and allowed a private agency to take him with no custody order or court order and send him to the Netherlands. DHS is intimidating us, they are threatening us, and they are making sure that we are the ones who are shown as being vindictive and selfish. I strongly encourage the resolution to be passed.
I had two nieces that DHS gave me in 2011, 2012. They came and took them from me for no odd reason. They telling the judge I had mental issues, financial business, being evicted and everything, and I had been in my home for over 20 years. And I just was here to support the bill of investigate why these kids was taken out of my home.
I'm a grandmother of two kids. On October the 18th, I had took to St. Christopher's Hospital. The hospital had notified DHS. They said a supervisor had told them that the children wasn't able to come home with me. The supervisor had brought the molester to court, which is the perpetrator that did this to the two children, and the supervisor turned out to be the aunt. On December the 3rd, my 2-year-old granddaughter that I had from birth that was never under DHS, they came to my house from they was upset because I kept coming to every court date, and they removed her from my home.
I was going to talk about another resolution, but I'm going to talk about the resolution authorizing the establishment of a special committee on child separation in Philadelphia to investigate child separation, to protect children and due process rights to families and prevent the unnecessary breakup of families.
Read the title of 190346A.
A resolution authorizing the establishment of a special committee on child separation in Philadelphia to investigate child separation in Philadelphia's child welfare system and develop recommendations to ensure compliance with state child protective services law to protect children and due process rights of families and prevent the unnecessary breakup of families.
Chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would argue respectfully this is not the right approach as proposed by this resolution to set up a special committee. We already have 2 standing committees that could address this issue that is dealing with the various issues of DAS, including this. And they include the all important entities, including DHS, including the school district. At least one of those places would seem to be the appropriate place to deal with the issue, with this particular issue. To have another special committee set up and have them crisscrossing into each other. While I would argue that we do not approve this resolution, I want to be clear, we are not rejecting the issue of child separation. We are rejecting this particular method of addressing it. So I would ask members to vote no on this resolution. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Oh, folks, we're not going to do that today, okay? Just calm down. You have had your opportunity for your public comment, and we will have a vote. I'm telling you, listen, we're going to have a vote today on the resolution, okay? There will be a vote on the resolution. Okay? Folks, we're not going to do this. I'm telling you, we're going to have a vote on the resolution. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do have a point of information. In many ways, I'm going to punctuate what Councilman Bill Greenlee has already articulated. To be sure, we have the Committee on Health and Human Services. We also have the Committee on Children and Youth. We also have a task force. Are we slicing hairs here? Of these issues introduced in this resolution, are they being captured in the task force that is currently already convened by Councilwoman Gim and Councilman Kenyatta Johnson?
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gim.
In June, this council convened and established a task force to take a look at the issue of youth in residential treatment facilities. Obviously, many of them are separated from their families, but the issue has gone quite broad as well. We're looking at issues of separation, but more importantly, also issues of what we need to do to bring families back to health and healing. Since we established the task force started meeting. We have multiple members of the task force. They include the School District of Philadelphia, the District Attorney's Office, the CBH, DBH, city agencies, council member offices, and our advocates, the Defenders Association, Education Law Center, and others who have Juvenile Law Center, who are taking a serious look at reducing on the front end and also ensuring the safety of young people in these treatment facilities. We started meeting in November. We've met over 14 times, including a town hall that brought out 150 families, showing us how we both need to do better and how we can do better. This is,
Folks, if you don't want to, you really.
there are parents who are represented on the task force as well as young people. And we will commit to we have committed already to doing another town hall on this very issue, for which we will invite people, including members of the task force, to be available. We are moving towards recommendations that will see a significant reduction around youth in these facilities. They include, we expect to have those recommendations hopefully as early as September. But we would like to see that move towards fruition and invite, members of those who are interested in the special committee to join us on the task force and be part of that solution that we are creating, the recommendations that we have. I understand the pain that a lot of people in this room are facing. We also have a big systemic problem, and we need all people at the table to try and get this under control. I'm committed to it. I'm in my first term, and we've already seen things move. For those of us who are on council, we are taking this issue very seriously, and certainly invite other council members to be part of that process. Thank you.
All right. Hey, Keith, you got to go off of there. You got to go off of there. Chair recognizes Councilman Oh. Folks, listen, hold, time out. Folks, if you all cannot, participate in this way in a civil matter and let the council members speak, you're going to have to leave. You're going to have to leave. You can't have people hollering out from the audience. We gave you a chance to speak. You can't keep hollering out from the audience. All right? It's your choice. It's your choice. Man. Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much, Council President.
Folks, can we have quiet, please?
The Committee on Health and Human Services, chaired by Councilman Bass, held a hearing based on a resolution that was passed in this body. It particularly had to do with DHS and whether the city agency, despite the good work that it does, its good mission, whether or not it was complying with state law. The issue is whether or not DHS as an organization routinely and intentionally violates state law. the Child Protective Services law. And from what I've seen, it does, it has, and it justifies it. DHS is also the entity that educates mandated reporters in this city, and it routinely violates the law. So under those circumstances, I think it is important to focus specifically on DHS. The mothers that are here today and the many, many mothers who have contacted my office and brought proof to my office have been going to their elected officials for years. This is not the first time that they've come to City Hall. I'm not the first elected official that they've been to. But they have come continuously, and they have no confidence in this current system because despite all the evidence that they have presented that I've seen, medical records, photographs, videotape, testimony, all of those things, they have not been able to get a response, an appropriate response to their complaints. There is something wrong with DHS. The biggest problem that I have with DHS is that DHS tells us there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. And in the course of pursuing this, there have been threats made, threats intimated, that there will be retaliation, that there will be political consequences, all types of threats. And I wonder why. Why is that when all that we're doing is our duty to provide an oversight to an administrative agency that is responsible for protecting children? Why the threats? Why the problems? What I want to look at in this committee, and not whitewash it, sugarcoat it, hide it, or persecute it, I want to look and see whether or not the agency is in compliance with the law. I will say that I have, in looking at the evidence, and I have about 50 mothers who have voluntarily been videotaped. They said, videotape me, we videotape them, we have that. They're not being videotaped and presenting evidence because they're hiding something. They are mostly not at fault mothers, which means they were never accused of doing anything wrong. They were never accused of being abusive or negligent. In most cases that they have come forward, it was determined by DHS that the allegations were unfounded, yet they have been denied their children for years. Their children are being placed in multiple foster care situations where they are abused, they have run away, they are depressed, they're medicated, they're sexually violated. And it continues. And then when not at fault mothers, and no one has said they've done anything harmful to their children, comply with DHS. Get a GED, get a job, do everything they want. 2 years later, DHS tells them, but we are putting your child up for permanent legal custody. It happens too much. There's something definitely wrong. And finally, some of the facts that I've seen and confirmed are horrendous. What I mean is, I have accumulated evidence in a particular case that I've sent to the Attorney General's office, the U.S. Attorney's office. I have tried to give it to our district attorney.
Multiple members of the task force. They include the School District of Philadelphia, the District Attorney's Office.
And it is because DHS has placed a 5-year-old child who has been raped by a boyfriend, tried to place that child with the boyfriend, claiming to the judge that this was the paternal father when that was not the paternal father. DHS then places the child with the girlfriend of that person. That 5-year-old child provided a medical report corroborated by her 10-year-old brother of 2 years of rape. and DHS determined that the case was unfounded. There's no police investigation. That person, the rapist, is on the street. But DHS came to the grandmother's home and took the third grandchild without a court order. And that's on videotape. No court order. They handed a piece of paper, and when it was opened after taking the child in front of a police lieutenant and 6 police officers, that piece of paper was not a court order. Now, the judge, receiving a document from DHS, signed an order that the grandmother is to have no interaction with her 3 grandchildren. And now they have brought allegations against the grandmother as being mentally ill. This is not something that I think is just a general handling of this matter. I think these type of cases, and I'm clearly not saying this is routine, obviously not. What I am saying is these type of situations appear to occur in a system that is not complying with the law. It does a lot of good things, but we cannot ignore the complaints of constituents all over our city who have brought evidence and continue to bring evidence to their elected representatives seeking help. I would ask all of the council members to believe the women who are here today. The evidence will come out. Without a appropriate and proper committee to look specifically at this problem, despite whatever threats are being made, we will not get to the bottom of this. DHS cannot investigate itself. Thank you.
And we all agree that DHS cannot investigate itself. My question on clarity was, given the heart-wrenching instances that Councilman Oh just spoke about, should they be addressed in the current task force currently in place to look at these very specific type of ugly circumstances? I need an answer from the sponsor of the bill on, is there a level of confidence that these issues will be addressed in the current task force that exists, which includes all the systems across the board that interface in trying to make a difference in the lives of children?
My answer is no, because that task force is looking at a very broad range of things, as it should, and this is a very narrow thing that we're looking at, and very specific.
Councilwoman, is that sufficient response?
So I would respectfully disagree. If the net is wide, then every instance that one can think of that touches the lives of children should be discussed, debated, figured out in that task force. We have multiple systems, if you will. We have multiple pathways to trying to make a difference in the lives of children. We have the Committee on Human Services, we have the Committee on Children and Youth, and we have a task force in place that has all of the players who lead those agencies at the table as we speak. And so I remain confused about why we are slicing the hair to achieve the very same end. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilman O?
Well, we're not slicing hairs. What happens is people can look at environmental issues, and then they could look specifically at air pollution. People can look at issues of crime, or they could look specifically at heroin opioid, or specifically gun violence among young people. You can look at crime. It'll take a long time. It's important to do. But in light of the urgency of this situation, I would say a specific task force to look specifically at DHS and whether or not it is complying with state law and the other issues that involve violation of the law by DHS itself.
Chair recognizes Councilman Heenan.
Is there an actual motion?
The councilman is not only going to ask for a motion, he's going to ask for a roll call vote. Councilman?
Thank you very much. I move for the adoption of the resolution. I ask for a roll call vote.
Mr. Decker, call the roll. Mr. Decker?
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Blackwell.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Nay.
Councilman Green. Councilman Greenlee.
No.
Councilwoman Gim. Councilman Heenan.
Nay.
Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
No.
Councilwoman Gunnuna Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
No.
Councilman Squilla.
No.
Councilman Taubenberger.
No.
Council President Clark.
No. Ayes are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ayes are 7. The nays are 9. The resolution is defeated. Can you come over here? Councilman.
Chair recognizes Council President Clark. Council President Clark, you may proceed. Council President Clark has the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not really interested in being dramatic, but I'm not able to speak up at the podium. So I just want to say one thing as we move ahead. All right, so, come on, man. Okay, let me, don't. Hey, Ronnie, how you talking? Don't touch me. This is an extremely emotional issue, all right? And there's no right or wrong on this issue. At the end of the day, there are challenges at DHS, but there are challenges as it relates to some of the treatment of children across the board. I mean, there's no denying that. And since this conversation has come up, I've talked to a number of people, and that the reality is that there needs to be issues. This is about the process of this council, right? When we all started this process, in terms of establishing our committees and the structure of the council, we appropriately determined what committees would be adopted and subsequently put members in place on those various committees that had levels of expertise on the various committees to deal with issues like this, right? So this is a process issue. And again, I'm not going to get into, because there's no winners and losers. The fact that we have such an emotional conversation in here today tells us that this is something that is very important, because there's nothing more important than one's child. As we move forward, I would like to ask the members of this council, committees, we have to believe we probably have 2 committees that can deal with this. I believe that the existing task force that has been working on this and other issues, we have a conversation next week to see how we proceed, because we need to come up with some conclusion on this, and we need to do it in a relatively, expedited manner. As a longtime member of this council, I don't like seeing us divided. We have been pretty successful in having consensus, and every now and then we disagree, but I don't like us disagreeing on an emotional issue that I think can be resolved in a meaningful way. So I'm only down here because I can't say that up there. So next week, we'll be reaching out to the members of my colleagues and the members of this council to talk about a process that will allow us to get to some facts as it relates to this issue, so we can specifically focus on solutions. So, Mr. Chairman, that's all I wanted to say. Couldn't say it from up there. I just wanted to say that we will be reaching out among all the members so we can deal with this issue, so we can have some conclusion to this very, very emotional issue. All right, thank you, sir. All right.
Thank you, Council President.